Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fitness for the Kingdom podcast. My name is Jared Pedroza. I am your dashing and debonair host. It's great to be with you here today on the pod. I have an awesome guest with me who has been super patient this whole time. We had some technical difficulties while recording yesterday. The Zoom didn't get recording for some reason, and then my computer crashed repeatedly. So this is actually on a new system. We're going to try this out. Make sure it works for us. So today, please welcome Mary Jenkins. She is the latest that I know of, the only actually person that I know that is an IFBB Bikini Bodybuilder Pro. She has just received her pro card from the IFBB and is joining us today. She is also an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So let's get going. We have recording. All right. Everybody, please welcome Mary Jenkins, my very patient and understanding guest. We had so many technical difficulties the last time we tried to do this, and I spent the morning after my morning hike today making sure that this was going to work. I've recorded hours of test videos to make sure. So if something goes wrong, it's because the Lord doesn't want this podcast to go out. But if it works, it means you should definitely watch this podcast. So there's our
Absolutely.
options. All right, well, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I kind of gave in the intro that you are a female bodybuilder. You're a member of the IFBB. You just got your IFBB Pro card.
Yes.
But tell us kind of how you got into that lifestyle and how you found your way into being super buff on stage.
Yes, well, I'm from Kaysville, Utah.
Yes.
Davis Start, so I'm strong. But of course, so I've always been pretty into fitness since I was a kid, like most of us. I used to do gymnastics, swimming, wrestling and track, and I did all these different sports, and I really loved the conditioning portion of it. That was my very favorite. So, the weight room or holding your arms up as long as possible. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to beat any single person this because I can outlast physical pain of everyone. Maybe you can beat me in the swim race. Yeah, that's fair. But I can beat you on the dry land.
I like it.
So I always really loved everything that had to do with that, like go to hotels. I love the gym and everything like that, even as a little girl. But I didn't actually start working out at a public gym up until I was working there. And that was like 10th or 11th grade or so. And so I really met a ton of different bodybuilders, whether that's like they're super competitive in the bodybuilding industry or they're just really like, wanting to sustain life for a number of years. And I really fell in love with the competitive bodybuilders and bodybuilders in general because of really their mindset, the way that they were as a person. They were high quality people that really, who doesn't really want to surround themselves with that kind of group of people. And then I became a certified personal trainer, and I really started flirting with the idea of like, oh, maybe I hop on stage. Because this one guy actually came up to me in the gym when I was 18 years old. He's like, are you a bikini bodybuilder? And I was like, no. But I was so flattered. I was like, really? I was like, you think I could potentially be one? So I was really flattered by that. And I always thought like, maybe I could actually become that person like the people that I've looked up to for such a long time. But I was so nervous of, becoming like them because I also saw it as a really sinful thing to do. Hopping on stage, what they wear, I was like, oh no, I can never be associated with that part of it. So I was like, no, I'll just do life, I'll just do bodybuilding normally. And then I went on mission, came back, and I told my husband, you know what, I've been kind of thinking about doing bodybuilding for my career and also just for myself. And he was like, okay. And I was like, you're okay with it? I was completely shocked. I was like, really? So then I decided, you know what, I'm actually going to really think about this and take it seriously. And that's what led me into bodybuilding.
That is awesome. And it's such an amazing journey to I mean, it's kind of there's two different paths I've always seen as people are working out. There are those just casual workouters that are just in there, to try and not die as soon. But then
Yes.
I've got friends that are bodybuilders, and we've as we've discussed repeatedly now, I kind of grew up in that golden era of bodybuilding with Corey Everson, Matt Mendenhall, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the IFBB was just so huge with Joe Weider at the helm, and it was just cool to see, how big these people got. I remember reading that Arnold Schwarzenegger had to actually lose mass to play Conan the Barbarian because he couldn't swing the sword. It was
Yes.
just he was too bulky to even be able to do the sword fights. But and then you look at him in that movie and go, where did he lose any mass? There's nothing
Yes.
to lose. And you get the people that go into bodybuilding, and then you get the power lifters, and they're all about, I'm going to pick up a car, and then I'm going to pick up this giant sphere and lift it above my head. But I think that people misunderstand the level of dedication it takes to become a bodybuilder. I think they think you just go to the gym and pick up some weights and then put them down, and then you go home and you have your cheeseburger and you have your French fries. And we didn't delve into this too much, and I thought about it as I was on my walk this morning, how I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of your show prep. What do you go through when you're getting ready to go, and you have to be in peak physical condition? Not only that, you have to be really, really lean. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what's your diet like? What's your workout routine like when you're prepping for a show?
Yes. Well, okay, so particularly, I'm going to focus on 2 weeks out from show or about a month from show because that's the thing. Peak, of course, like when you're starting to peak, it's totally different. There's different stages that you're going in. For example, like a month before show, that's when you're super dialed. Of course, you're dialed throughout the entire process, but that's when my food starts to become the exact same sodium and potassium levels. That's when we really start to manipulate it, really try and figure out, okay, what does my body react best to? More sodium, equal potassium, which is what my body likes most. It's like, oh yeah, give me the same. So I have to really be super picky on all of that, keep track of all of it, and eat the exact same thing every single day. So there's no trying new, like, oh, let's try, the whatever, the healthy brownies. I can't try new recipes at that point. I have to just stick to and tilapia, tilapia, oatmeal. Let's think. Actually, cereal. I keep cereal in because I love cereal. It's something that I look forward to every single morning, like my cereal life.
I love that
I
so much.
I
What's the
love my
cereal? Is
cereal.
it Life?
It's life. It's life
Love it.
cereal. I
Mine's Raisin
also,
Bran. I love Raisin Bran. I will
oh
not
yeah.
give that up.
Oh my gosh, no, it's that I love that too. And Lucky Charms. I'll like switch between Lucky Charms because my husband really loves Lucky Charms, and then I'll also do Life cereal. But
I see why you
anyways,
married him if he likes Lucky Charms. Totally get that now.
yes. So those are the foods that I really stick to. And then for dinner, again, it's chicken tenderloins. I used to do chicken breast. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy that I switched to chicken tenderloins. Almost best decision I've made in my life other than marrying my husband. So seriously, get on chicken tenderloins. And then also potatoes. I do more sweet potatoes, but then once we're getting closer to show, my body starts to really hold on to the potatoes quite a bit more. So then I switch to rice, a little bit more of a lighter carbohydrate. That way it just kind of runs through. But and then so that's the food part. As far as snacks go, if I'm like so snacky, something that was been so nice this last prep is carrots. I've been, chewing down some carrots, which has been great. And then of course tomatoes, just any vegetable like celery that really is just helps me get that chewy feeling, but doesn't quite, it's not a
Doesn't
macronutrient.
negate all your training, right? Yeah.
Exactly, yes. As far as cardio goes, it's a hate-love relationship because you're just on the Stairmaster or whatever incline, and your body is just so almost like you're just depleted. And so you can feel your body just like almost like a raisin, just like shrinking it up. But honestly, what I've been loving about the cardio is it's my designated time to just think. So I'm able to do like my scripture study on cardio, which has been my absolute favorite, or learn more about psychology. So it's my portion where I can really do some education, and it's that designated time. So that's what's been really great about prep and cardio. As far as like actual lifting goes, yeah, I'm gonna be totally honest. I'm feeling the repercussions from just like pushing through and being completely depleted because once you have such little fat on your body, you're super injury prone. And so I've been really feeling the repercussions of that. So I've been on recover, reheal, fix that damage because you're such in go mode that you're just like, I don't care. Maybe my body's kind of breaking right now, but I'm gonna push through because I want that vision so bad. So for example, what that can look like is, you're lifting and you feel something a little bit wrong, but you're like, I'm just gonna keep pushing through because it's too close to stop because you still need that, like, you still need the muscle density and you still need to like fuel your muscles. So you just keep going.
Yeah,
Not too bad, but
see, I
yes.
call that being old. Like every time I go to the gym, I'm like, oh, apparently now I need to kind of favor this shoulder a little bit because I'm old. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think people realize that level of dedication that it takes to get down. I mean, what's your show level body fat usually?
I have no idea because first off, I don't really do DEXA scans and so body fat percentages, of course, are extremely inaccurate, especially with just the home scale. But when I was 2 weeks post show or 3 weeks post show, it said 8.5% body fat from the in-body scan. So pretty low.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had a friend in high school that did bodybuilding, and he would try and get down around 3%
Yeah.
body fat.
Yeah.
Closest I've ever been to that, I went through basic training, AIT, and jump school for the U.S. Army back in 1989. Yes, I'm old. And for my listener out there, yes, you know I'm old. It's hi, mom. But it's when I got back, I'm 6 foot tall. I've been 6 foot tall since I was in ninth grade, and I was
That's lucky.
178 pounds. And I was at about 7% body fat and could run the 2 miles in 11 minutes and 54 seconds. It was the peak of
It's
my physique. I
crazy.
was 18 years old and I haven't ever gotten back to that. Right now, I fluctuate between 25-ish percent, somewhere in that range. And I'm pretty comfortable there. I can eat and not, stress too much. I do have an app where I track my macros because I definitely want to, favor protein and things like that so I
Yeah.
can build muscle. But yeah, just I don't think, again, I don't think people realize that it's not just something you walk into the gym and do. It's a real skill. And I was
Yeah.
discussing this with my hiking buddies this morning when I talked about the technical failure we had yesterday, and I said, it's not just it's something that it's a talent. It's a talent that God has given you to be able to get into that physical peak fitness and be able to do this. And do you want to bury that talent? Which kind of brings me to my next, topic of discussion is you're a member, obviously, of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You served a mission in Deutschland.
Deutschland, ja.
One of my home where my family is from originally, which is everywhere, but that's another
Die
story.
wunderbare Stadt,
Yeah,
ja.
wunderbar. And I did learn, I was watching a show and they said, Guten Tag, mein Earthenfreund. And I don't know what that means, but I think it means like greetings, earthlings.
Yes, it does.
And then he said wie geht's, which I think's like what's up.
Ja, genau. Ja.
Okay, so cool. But you're a member of the church who's posing in a bikini. And I'm interested to see one, how members of the church react to that. And two, kind of how non-members react to that. Because I would think it would be like when I was in the army, I used to joke that I'd say to my friend Jeff Berg, hey, let's go get a beer. And he'd go, no, you don't drink beer. And so it seems like something that, and we never did go drink beer. I should explain that too. But it seems like you'd get a different reaction, but maybe similar.
Mm. Yes, and I've been thinking more about this since we talked yesterday about it. And really there's two different groups and it's super polarized because with religion everything is super polarized. So on the one hand, you'll have people that are like, "Wow, that's awesome. Like you're using your talents, you're using your gifts, like you're glorifying God through doing that." And then there's the other hand that's like, "No, that's extremely vain, like you're tempting men, like all this, it's completely polar opposites." And I think the biggest differentiator between whether you're going to get a member or a non-member who are like, oh, that's this or that's that, I think is open-mindedness and education. So if people who are super closed-minded, super closed on their beliefs, can't even acknowledge that there's a different opposing perspective, cannot imagine that that could be actually okay. Because they've always been so used to, no, this is X, this is correct. There's not even a Y in existence. Versus, the other person who's like very open-minded and educated and knows that there's two sides of the coin. So I think that's a really big differentiator. And on my Instagram, it's pretty biased. That's like where we get, who who actually thinks what. I'll get a ton of, I think, ex-Mormons who really are so hurt by me, being stable in my and like confident with my relationship with God and still doing something that's, abnormal. I think that it almost hits home to them because they didn't necessarily felt like they belonged in the church. And that was a big reason why they left the church in the first place. And they're like, wait, I didn't know that you could do different things and still have a close relationship with God and still, belong to Him. And so I think it really hits hard for them on that hand because I'm questioning that idea in their brain. And I think it's actually such a good thing. I've met actually tons of non-members at shows, which is really fun because they're always like, "You're from Utah? I am too." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh," like I'm so excited. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I left the church, like it's judgmental and stuff like that." And they're like, "I'm surprised you're even here and like you're a member." And I'm like questioning that, part in their brain that's like, "No, you're not unworthy for, doing this. You are still a daughter of God, you're still a son of God." And so anyway, it's been really wonderful to share that and share that they are loved, whether, whatever they believe, like it doesn't matter. And anyways, it helps with inclusiveness, I think.
Yeah, and I think too, I look at the way maybe my mom would respond.
Uh-huh.
We were talking the other day about the new garments and how they don't have sleeves and you can wear tank tops. And she said, "Oh, I just have the hardest time when I'm at church not to just go up to those women and say, 'Why are you just baring your shoulders?'" And I'm like, and I said to her, "Mom, if a bare shoulder is enough to make a man go out and sin, he's the problem. It's
Yes.
not her that's the problem. He's got something he needs to work through that he can't even be in a room with someone and say that, yes, that's a beautiful woman." I saw, oddly enough, a reel this morning where a guy was talking about hiking. And he's like, "I love being out in nature and I can appreciate it for what it is. I can appreciate that it's beautiful. And when I see beautiful women, I feel that same way." And he says, "I think women feel that same way when they see an attractive man or a caring man. We can appreciate them for what they are without putting any kind of sexuality on it. And it's
Uh-huh.
it's us putting that sexuality on it. It's not them
Yes.
being sexual."
Yes.
And so it's just kind of interesting watching that gamut of, my mom's generation. She was born in the 1940s, all the way up to, my kids who are more accepting even than I am. And I'm Gen X. We just don't care as long as you leave us alone. But my kids are so accepting. And so it's really cool to see this blossoming, I want to call it, of
Mm.
acceptance within the church. Uh,
Yes.
and it's kind of cool to watch as well. But non-members are kind of cool about it too. They don't like, "But I thought Mormons couldn't do bodybuilding. I thought you had
Yes.
to walk around with like Quaker outfits and the hair bump." And no, that's the fundamentalists.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's funny actually. When I lived in England, people thought I lived in England when I was 15 years old. But anyways, at the public school that I went there, they were like, "Oh, you're Mormon? Don't they have like tails and horns and you have to like wear like like, like a swim something in the shower. You can't be naked ever." So it's kind of satisfying to really be a bodybuilder to question that and be like, "No, like our relationship with God doesn't have to do with the clothes that we wear or the things that we do. Our relationship with God is really personal, a lot more personal than the outward things that we show." So yeah, it's been funny to hear some of their responses to me.
No, I bet. And I love following your content on Instagram as well, just to kind of see the comment section,
Oh my
and
goodness.
that, like you were saying, that polarization of, and it runs the gamut. It really does.
Yes.
But you're doing something that is so impressive. And again, I don't think people truly understand the level of dedication you have to be able to get up on stage in that peak form and then receive your IFBB Pro card. That is such an accomplishment. I would put that up there with, I mean, you're now in the Olympics of bodybuilding,
It's so
and that's
awesome.
so
I love
cool.
it.
Can you talk about that a little bit, how that came to be, and what's the
Yes.
process to get the pro card?
Yes. So firstly, the process, just factually based, you have to do a regional show and there has to be like a national qualification at that regional show. So for example, in San Diego, I went and competed and I got first in the overall, which is like first in all of the bikini competitors. And because I got first, I was able to receive my national qualification. So then after, once you receive your national qualification, then you go up against girls just like you getting first in their overalls in their regional show. So, and then in the regional show, depends on what show you did. So I did the national and the natural pro, the pro whatever qualification one. That was in Pittsburgh. And you had to get top two in the overall to get your pro card, which was with like I'm serious. There's like hundreds of girls that you're competing up against, which is so flattering, like so amazing. Like it's really so humbling, but like the best feeling ever. Because you're like, I am with the best athletes really in the world and just all around quality people. And so it's really such an honor to be there. I remember I was just like so happy, even though it's like kind of nerve-wracking. I was like, wow, like what an honor. Like this is so cool. So anyway, so you have to get top two, and that was at the natural one. Non-tested was the show that I did after that. And you could get your pro card in your class, so your height division, which there was still probably more girls than in the naturals for sure. And they're non-tested, so of course they could be on whatever they want. So, but for me, so at the Pittsburgh Pro, that was the one that I was like, okay, I want my pro card at that one. Like that has to be it. You know, my husband and I, we want to have a family later in the year. So like this would be perfect. And I kept like envisioning like, yes, that's gonna be it. That's gonna be it. That's gonna be it. I go and I got fourth in the overall. So I didn't get my top two. So I did not earn my pro card. And I remember just being so distraught and telling my coach and being like, yeah, I'm done. Like I told myself that was going to be my last show. And like, it's a bummer that I didn't get it. Like that sucks. And the judges, they were like, no, you need to do another show. Like come to my show, come to Tennessee, like come do another show. And then the coaches were like, you should do another show. And I was like, no, like this must have been just God telling me like, no, like I shouldn't. And then I was really, really upset. And then I went to bed, woke up, and I was like, Mary, what are you talking about? You're doing another show. Go do another show. You're already peaked. Like, come on. This is not the end of the line. And I knew I needed to do another show. So I woke up with a completely different mindset. But I remember in that transition from Pittsburgh Pro to, Chattanooga, in that month of timeline, every single day that I went to the gym, I just was completely focused on doing better than I did last time. And it was such a mental game, seriously, even more than before because that time I failed and I was like, I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't do good enough. And so I had to keep changing that in my brain. And then I'd be worried a pro wouldn't think like this. Like they have such high mentality. They would never like think that it's not impossible. And then I remember when I was saying that to myself, I was like, yes, they would. Like they go through this exact thing. The thing that makes them different from this is by doing something different of it, proving it anyways, keep going anyways. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so I feel like God really needed me to learn throughout that process that you need to do it anyways. Even though you don't always have the direct outcome that you wanted, pushing through anyways and believing in yourself firstly, believing in God obviously firstly, but believing in yourself that you can do it even if nobody else believes that you can and you haven't necessarily shown that you can do it. So when I got the pro card in Chattanooga, it was so personal and it was extremely rewarding, and I'm so happy that's the way that it worked out because I learned a ton more even though it was just a month span, but it was a daily battle for sure.
I see that so often, and as I talk with people on the podcast and at the gym, people who say, I had this plan. I knew this is what God wanted for me. And then when I got to the end of it, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then something pushed me to keep going along that path a little bit further or a little bit longer. And at the end, the reward was so much more than I could have imagined it would be because there was that little bit of effort there at the end. And
Yep.
and I see that now with the podcast. I see it with, being a trainer. I see it with just my own personal growth. I look back on the person I was at the end of 2022 at 330 pounds and what I can do now, even though it took going through really a difficult time, that difficult time made me into what I am, and it gave me the
Yeah.
courage to keep going. So I love that part of your story, and I love that you were able to get your card. And I remember seeing your post on Instagram about it right after it happened, and just how excited and how you could tell how blessed you felt that it wasn't just you that was doing this, that there was definitely some divine intervention, and that really came through in the reel. And
Oh, that makes me so happy. That just touched me. Thank you.
yeah, it's so cool to see when God touches other people's lives. And this is why one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast so much. And I'll tell you something, I haven't told you this before. When I first reached out to you, I thought, number one, there is no way she is going to want to be on this fledgling little podcast and get together and talk with me because she's so cool and she's so advanced in what she's doing. And I thought, but you know what? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I will reach out. And you were so gracious, and you have been so gracious through this whole ordeal of the recording. But I'm so glad that I made that effort to reach out to you and have you on the podcast because I've learned a lot.
Me
And
too.
I hope that sharing your story will, number one, bring you more followers and more success because you deserve it. And number two, will show people inside the church and outside that there are things we can do to praise God that are not things that you would expect would cause you to praise God.
Yes.
My dad has a winery, and watching the process of making wine from planting the grapes and caring for them. Now, when I read in Jacob about the vineyard and the olive grove and everything it took for them to care for them, I see that in what my dad does, and I see it in my own life with how God pushes me a little bit further. And I love that. I love that part of your story that you I didn't know you had not gotten it in Pittsburgh and had moved on to Chattanooga to get it. That's a really cool story, and again shows us how he surprises us with exactly what we need, even if it isn't exactly when we think it should be.
Yes, I love that. And I love you sharing about the winery. And it made me think, for you, I don't know if you have kids, but I don't have kids yet. But if you think that they come to you and they're like, Dad, I really love, let's say Pokemon or something, or I really love painting. Of course, you're going to love that they love that, and you're going to want to learn more about it. You're going to want to help, cultivate that skill, that talent that they have. And especially if they're giving you, they're practicing it, like piano, for example. You give them access to a piano, they practice it, and they really nourish that talent. That is glorifying God even in itself. And I know that there's checks and bounds to that. For example, like, OnlyFans, like that's not a talent and it's not glorifying God. That's purely like intentionally wrong. And there's totally checks and bounds in that and your intention on everything. But for example, for bodybuilding, for me, that is one of my talents. That's one of the things that I love. And I know that God loves that I have so much passion about that. And He's wanting me to grow in that aspect and share it with others. And I think people think, oh, you know what? I need to have the talents and I need to have, the skills that most members in Utah or most people in Utah have and like keep their little things doing the same thing with everything, having the same hobbies, pickleball, all these different things when there's so many other things that they could be progressing in. And I think Heavenly Father really does just want us to be happy and grow.
Yeah, and it opens doors that
Yes.
wouldn't get opened otherwise. You can compete
Yes.
internationally now with your IFBB Pro card. And I don't know if you could before that, but I imagine so. But, it's going to open doors where you're going to meet people that maybe don't have a lot of experience with the church. I remember at least back in the 80s when I was doing it, there were a lot of bodybuilders from the Soviet Union. It was really big in the Soviet Union and in Russia. And when they would come for shows, they kind of experienced the West. Well, as we're out there doing things that maybe are a little unconventional, that's an area where there's not a lot of Latter-day Saints testifying to these people. And now
Yes.
there are, now you're there to testify of the restored gospel and Jesus Christ and how much he loves all these other bodybuilders. And it's not a door that a missionary is ever going to knock on.
Yes, that's so true. I love that. I want to clap to that. That's just the beautiful point. I love that.
Yeah, it's I love when we see people doing things that are different. Now, on the winery thing, I do have one benefit from that, even though it's my dad's. During COVID lockdown, you remember we had to do the sacrament at home. And it
Yep.
does say in the Doctrine and Covenants, section 89, that you can use wine during the sacrament if it's wine of your own make.
Oh, that's
And I did
interesting.
help make it. So I asked my bishop and he said no.
Oh,
And
I
now I
was
think I'm
waiting
in
for a
trouble for
different
even
answer. I was
asking.
like, oh.
He's like, why do you have why do you have that Stanley cup full of wine? Oh, a sacrament. We're going to do the sacrament later. No, it doesn't work that way. So just
He's
in
like,
case any of my listeners are thinking they can get away with it, you can't. They've closed that loophole.
they've already said no.
Well, Mary, it has been absolutely wonderful finally getting able to talk and definitely I keep checking the record button and make sure it's still recording.
Oh, that's
Let's
awesome. We could
let's
do it
drop.
again. We could do it again.
Yeah, I know you have a program that you're working with that you offer to people. I can't recommend it highly enough, just having gotten to know you a little bit. But drop us a little information about what you've got going on there.
Yes. So I meet with my clients one-on-one every single week as an option, of course. And then I give them their workout training program, and it really goes through different phases like stabilization phase, first create a good foundation, and then we increase your athleticism while we're increasing your hypertrophy throughout the phase and your mindset along with that. So they really complement each other throughout the journey, throughout the process. And of course, nutrition is a big part of that too. So I offer nutrition help too. But I really am passionate about fitness, and I love people who are also wanting to become more passionate about it because it really is something that complements our life and helps our life and blesses it. And that's how your trainer should be about it too.
Yeah, and you can do so much more when you're healthy. Coming from a
Yeah.
very unhealthy place before, I can walk across the street or I can walk down to the Walmart if I want to. It's like a mile away. And I can do that now where I couldn't before. It's being out of shape. I gave up so much of my agency because
Yes.
I couldn't be out of shape and do the things I wanted to do. I couldn't, go hiking with my kids or whatever it was. And so I really feel like there is a huge blessing in physical fitness, which is
Mhm.
what brought me to do this podcast, Fitness for the Kingdom. So it says to serve God with all your heart, might, mind, and strength. And might is that emotional, physical, spiritual combination of being, worthy and willing to do it. But strength is strength. You've got to
Yep.
be strong if you're going to fight for God and His Christ. And so I love that. And where can they find you on the socials?
One Mary Jenkins.
One Mary Jenkins at on the
Yes.
Instagram. Everybody go
Instagram,
out,
Facebook.
drop her a follow. You will not regret it. It's the coolest thing ever. And again, Mary, thank you so much for being with me today and for putting up with all these
Absolutely.
shenanigans.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you so much, Jared.
All right.